I had one weird podcast years ago. I guested on. It was done on Zoom. They posted it online. I listened to it, and when I say they didn't edit it, I mean so literally that it started with dead air, and then one person joining the Zoom chat, and then the other host joining it, and them just chatting about like their personal life stuff that had nothing to do with the show while they waited for me to join at this time. And then I did. And it was the weirdest thing I've ever heard.
I actually listened to a full podcast episode with you the other day because I wanted to make sure I didn't just ask you the same bullshit that everyone maybe asks you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes.
And it was a nice conversation. It was with someone who maybe is neurodivergent, and you guys were talking about
Wednesday,
ADHD.
Friday.
Yeah. And
yes.
I did notice that your microphone quality sounded much better than the host's, which was really funny. That's not what you want, but my goal as a host is for my mic to always sound better than everyone else's.
Yes. No, mine too. Absolutely. On our show, that's a priority. And like we've been slowly upgrading our various cast members' equipment to get them all up there. And, I don't even stress about the guests. I mean, obviously I want it to sound as good as possible, but I want the guests. So at the end of the day, if it's not the best, but they're there, that's still better for me.
Totally. And your conversation was, at first I was like judgmental of the audio quality. And then I was like, okay, no, just listen to the words. And then it was a great conversation. I really like, because I have ADHD myself. I'm in the club.
Yes.
And welcome. I think you said that you were diagnosed with kind of the combination of autism spectrum and
that
ADHD.
Was that one was a recent addition
cool.
to my knowledge. So that was a surprise.
Life-changing, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit, yes. Or at least it's great for putting things in perspective.
Yeah, or just like, I two of the techniques that you briefly mentioned were like, do it now and set reminders. And those are two things that I'm like learning to do. I mean, I've always kind of needed reminders and calendar stuff.
Sure.
But there's an app that if you don't know about, it's pretty great called Text Me That. Do you know this one?
Oh, okay. No, I don't know that one.
So it's an app that sends you an actual text messages for what you need to be reminded of. So if it's like, let the dog out, or like let the dog back in, like things that are kind of crucial. Like if my dog doesn't get let back in and I live in Minnesota, it's bad. So that's kind of that's a good one for me, but
that's good. Yes. Yeah. It's definitely a matter of constantly keeping those things in front of your face one way or the other.
Yeah.
And I know AI is a hot button issue, but it's really valuable for aspects of what we do, and having it be able to like review my emails and review my notes and review things that surface information to me. I feel like it's a matter of time before we then have some kind of reminder service like that, which is like, hey, you've talked about these things, you haven't done them.
Yeah.
Here's a reminder. It's like, oh, thank you. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So I'm hoping we see more of that.
Yeah. Well, Jarrett, I'm saying your name right.
Yes,
Jarrett.
Yes, you got it.
So it's amazing that you said yes to this and that you're sitting down with me and spending, however long talking. It's so cool. I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Okay.
So it's cool to, do you live in Los Angeles?
I do. Yeah. I'm in the Los Angeles area. I'm one of the very rare natively born Los Angeles actors. You grew up,
that makes sense because you were a child actor.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of child actors grow up in the big cities because
it tends to go that way. Yeah. Occasionally you'll be surprised. Like they'll move here for it. You'll get people who like get found somewhere else. When I did Step by Step, like that was Christine Lakin's story. She was from Atlanta and like they were coming out here. They came out here to film the pilot, and they were coming out here, basically during filming season and going back home outside of it. And so that happens sometimes, but it's probably pretty typical that if you start young like I did, then you were homegrown.
This is kind of off topic, but do you feel like podcasts have changed how people think and talk about TV? Like pilot season, writer's room, table read, these are all like kind of insider terms that kind of the average person knows now because of like Office Ladies podcasts and things like that.
Right.
Is that kind of weird for you? It was like something that was niche for you maybe when you were younger is like now commonplace.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting thought process. I think it happened so naturally and granularly that I didn't even notice the shift.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, they're terms that I would have used naturally because they mean something to me. And then historically, you're right, I would have had to then explain what those concepts mean to people. And I don't anymore.
Yeah.
But also like I'm steeped in, since I also still live in Los Angeles and a lot of my friends are either entertainment industry or adjacent or whatever.
Right.
Like I'm also used to not having to explain that to the people I talk to.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah. No,
you live in it.
Sure. But yeah, I do think podcasts, internet culture in general, I mean, all of this stuff is accessible in a way that it never was before. So there's less excuse to not understand what's going on behind the scenes. I mean, I honestly, I love it for anyone who still has that magical veil in front of them who has no clue what's going on. But it's kind of cool that people who have access to all of that. I like to know how the sausage is made.
I do too. Yeah. And I always have. I remember watching like the Scrubs DVD commentary at like age like 15. And I'm like, oh
yes.
And I didn't have a lot of friends that were doing those kind of things. Like, the reason why I have a Judd Apatow podcast is because I'm an Apatow nerd. You know what I mean?
Right.
I read the Freaks and Geeks booklet when I was a kid, and I read the undeclared booklet and I listened to the commentaries. So I had kind of an early awareness of some of these things that are now very commonplace. People talk on podcasts, and I was listening to my own podcast episode with my friend Joey where we talked about Pineapple Express. And I'm like, I was listening back and I'm like, we sound like we work in Hollywood in some of these sentences because of this lingo that we know of, but it's just because we're fucking dorks.
Right. No,
that's
absolutely.
The only reason.
Yeah.
I've never been on a set. I've never actually been a part of this thing, but I seem to like be really interested in it and have an awareness of it. So it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun to talk to people that have actually been there. And that's what, I have a weird obsession with Apatow's career and his, everything he's done. And Freaks and Geeks is, for me, just like the best of the best TV show. And it's my favorite show of all time. And to me, it's 18 perfect episodes of television. And how old were you when that show came out? Or when you were
17.
filming it? 17.
I filmed that. Yeah.
You grew up a child actor, and so I feel like at 17, you probably you were old enough that you can remember a bunch of that.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I was 13 years into my career at that point.
Okay.
I started at the age of 4, and that show absolutely, it's as important as it is to you. Clearly, it holds a very similar place in my mind and my heart.
Yeah.
It's top tier for me. I've had the great luck of having been involved in a few incredibly iconic, beloved things in my career that I can say are proud moments for me, and that is very, very, very high on that list.
I'm so glad to hear you think of it that way.
Yeah,
and
well, on a personal level, like I keep that mental list of best canceled shows of all time. Like that's its own special category because it's those things that are like, this is brilliant, it's incredible, and it didn't get its due. And it's things like Firefly and so on. But like this is top 3, if not top 1. I'm
so glad to hear that. And if listeners aren't aware of you, I mean, just check out Jarrett's IMDb page. You'll be amazed, especially when you were a kid. You were just kind of cranking out a lot of stuff. You were a lot of guest spots and really cool. Like you were like Howie on Boy Meets World on the prom episode. I'm a big Boy Meets. Okay, here we go. I'm a big Boy Meets World head, and I'm specifically a big fan of Ryder Strong. And it's because he has an amazing podcast about literature, and it totally opened me up to the world. I don't know if you've checked out his literary disco.
Not directly, no, but I know of it, and I know his work. I also have a great respect for him and his voice work too.
He's such a smart guy, and he. I was basically in my early or mid 20s. And I just randomly rewatched Boy Meets World because I was like, what else is there to do? And it got to that episode where there's an amazing poem that Ryder reads. And I was like, who the fuck wrote this episode? This is the best poetry. I assumed it was the writer of the episode.
Sure,
it's like, who wrote this amazing like heartbreaking, beautiful poem. And of course, Ryder was like 17 and he wrote the poem for the episode, and it was beautiful. And then I Googled him because I was like, what else is like, what's this guy's deal? Why is he so good at poetry? And then I discovered his podcast, and it like opened my eyes up to the world of literature, which school didn't do that for me, but this podcast did. So I was able to meet him and got his autograph and stuff. And I was just like, I started crying.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest thing. Yeah. I'm sure you probably had a couple fans that started crying or something, and you're just kind of like, what do I do with myself? But he was so cool. He gave me a hug and stuff, and he totally got it, because literature is literature or film or these things.
And especially because I think that's like, clearly that's very personal to him.
Yeah.
And so to connect over that is a bigger deal than, obviously he's got fans coming up to him about Boy Meets World all the time. It's the obvious low hanging fruit. And I know, most of the nice performers still appreciate that. They still respect that. It's like, they get it. It's like, you care. But when it's an extra layer of, here's my personal thing that isn't the famous thing, it's not the obvious thing, and this is a connection that matters. So I think that had to have made his day.
I hope it did. He gave me he requested, he suggested the hug, so I wasn't like, can I hug you? No,
good person. Great cast overall.
Very sweet guy. Good person. I agree with a lot of his politics, and I think he's just a stand-up guy, but so that I just went on a tangent about Boy Meets World. If we're going on a couple of your interesting credits, obviously Gilmore Girls is kind of fun. I never saw that show until my wife kind of got me into it, and we watched the whole thing. And so your castmate Chauncey Leopardi was also on that show.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, I mean, he was also one of those guys who was in everything. I mean, we worked together on 2 different projects. And of course, he was famous from The Sandlot. Both of us were really active actors in that time period. So, I wonder if you ever ran into one of my close friends who was a child actor in the 90s, Adam Ferguson. He went by back then. Oh, that name does sound familiar.
He might have just been at auditions with you or something back in the day, because
he was like such a common thing.
He went to high school with Jonathan Taylor Thomas, I think. So you guys were probably the same age or around there.
I mean, I used to read for like the same stuff as Elijah Wood and like a lot of these people that people very much know now. Like we were in the same rooms together on a regular basis, and there's so many people. Like sometimes these are people where you're friends. Sure. Sometimes like you don't, and there was not like the enemies thing, like that wasn't a thing, but it was oftentimes the case of like, you're in your own little worlds, you're working on your sides, like you're going over your lines. So certain people you connect with, certain people you just don't have the opportunity to, but like there were so many people who at the bare minimum you knew each other's faces. I mean, there's a guy, he was in a ton of stuff at the time, named Todd Bosley. He was famous for, he had an unusual nerdy look, so that already gets him out there, and he had an unusually deep voice for his age and everything. And I used to see him in everything. We'd certainly read for the same stuff. Never knew each other. Now we occasionally do improv together. Like
that's
decades
awesome.
Later, we met up with each other again. We go to some of the same like game days and stuff like that. And it's like you reconnect with these people in completely different worlds, because now you're in a whole different mental state.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
that's so cool. So do you want to share maybe the story or the situation of how you ended up on Freaks and Geeks?
Yes, because this is actually, it is an unusually interesting story, because most of the time when you're cast in something, it's like, I auditioned for this and they picked me and I was in it. And I was like, well, that was great. Riveting. But Freaks and Geeks was actually a bit of a longer road, because they had a heck of a casting process. Allison Jones, let's start with that. She's the casting director,
the best of all time,
of Freaks and Geeks, of The Office, of anything that you think is the most brilliantly cast show or movie. That's because she did it. And
she's amazing.
I probably am therefore throwing some other incredible casting directors under the bus, which I don't mean to, but it's just like, the point is she's fantastic. And at that time, I didn't have as much perspective on that. It's looking back on the work that she did. It's like, oh my God. Incredible. And they did a multi-city casting tour for that. And that's already unusual. I mean, most of the time you're casting in LA, and that's it.
Seth Rogen in Vancouver, right?
Seth Rogen, yes, absolutely. They went to Canada, they went to New York, and I think they went to a couple other cities. I mean, Sam Levine was picked up in New York. He was, he was the youngest member of the New York Friars Club. Like, he was already a stand-up comedian.
Oh my gosh, I can see that.
Yeah, Seth Rogen was also a stand-up comedian. Yeah,
John Francis Daley was also New York, I think.
I think you're correct. Yes. Yeah. So the point is, like, they already did an unusual thing here by casting a wide net. And when I originally read for the show, I read for Neil, for Sam's character.
I could see that. You would be good.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I could have been.
You would have been great.
I have no complaints about their casting choice. I think it was the correct choice. But it was fun. I read for it, and I didn't proceed with that. And then I later on got called in for a guest role. And at that point, and it was this character, although I think this is where it gets interesting, because Colin, my character, and Harris, played by Stephen Lee Shepard, who's also someone they found in Vancouver, were one character. That was one character named Harris. And I got the sides for that. And my honest first reaction, especially after having gone through the original casting process and not getting through and everything, was I actually turned down the audition. And this sounds crazy, and it's a rare thing that any actor would do. Yeah. And what it came down to is I had like a long string of roles playing nerds, and not respectful nerds. Like I had done a sitcom called Social Studies, where I played a character called Headgear Boy. And like it was just and that was also awful because it was off of them having lied to me, because the breakdown of it had made it sound like this is actually a really nice, normal, not that big of a nerd who's misunderstood, blah blah blah. And then when I got the part, they're like, no, he's kind of nerdy,
like an Urkel,
they literally called me their white Urkel. Like when I got cast, they was like, this is great, we love you, you're going to be our white Urkel. It's like, and so I was already,
that's kind of racist and weird,
right? Yes. So I was gun shy about that. I was gun shy about the treatment of nerds and culture, because I was and am a nerd. Right. And so this show is literally called Freaks and Geeks. And the scene I read for, which was on the campus when we're giving them advice on how to deal with their bully, in a vacuum, without the context of the rest of the script, it didn't make sense to me. I thought it was badly written, and God, was I wrong. But I want to make that clear. Sure. But when I read that, combined with the perspective I had of another show making fun of nerds, it's like, I don't want to do this.
Oh, do you remember what the scene was that you kind of had an ill reaction to?
Yeah. I mean, it was after they gotten, they were running into issues with Alan, and how do they get advice on how to do it? They go to the senior nerd, which at that time, again, was one
Harris.
character. Yes. Who's just like, yes, my freshman bully. And he goes through this whole story of the Cressman conundrum, which is, the bully he was trying to deal with, and how he finally stood up to him. And, they had a fight, there was a broken leg or whatever. It's like, it finally solved the problem. It's like, oh, did you beat him up? It's like, no, he got expelled. Right.
So this must have been a deleted scene.
No, it's in there. It's just
really?
it's changed a little bit. Yes.
Okay.
That's the key thing that leads to them this, because at the end of that scene is when like Neil's like, this isn't even my fight, I don't need to be a part of this. Yeah. And then Alan literally walks by, slams into him, is like, you're next, nerd, or whatever. It's I guess I'm in. And so that's what leads them deciding to go fight him, is the advice that we give him.
Oh, I see.
So yeah, it was basically roughly the same, other than it was one character, Harris. So I initially, as I said, I turned down the audition. It's like, I don't want to be a part of another one of these things of just denigrating nerds. And then my agent called, is like, you've actually been requested by the producers. They really want to see you for this. Yeah. And you never, ever, ever turn down a producer's request. Sure. It happens sometimes where you get to skip that first round of audition, go straight to the producers. And at that point, worst case, you can still turn down the job if you don't want to, but you want to be seen. You want to connect with people. You want to, this is like Paul Feig, which at the time, that wasn't necessarily a name we knew, but
now it is.
It was going to be, and of course Judd Apatow was like,
This is the biggest names now, but
and of course the whole cast became the biggest names now. Anyway, I went for the callback, and even in the callback, once they were like doing back and forth with me, at that point you could talk to them and have a conversation. It's like, oh, okay, I get this now. Yeah. And even they were like, they clarified to me, no, this actually is not making fun of nerds and geeks. This comes from being one.
Yeah.
This comes from us wanting to tell the story of it. It is a drama. And once they gave me all of that personal connection, it was like, oh, I like this. I feel stupid now. And I didn't get the part. But
because the part was Harris, right?
Right. And they found this amazing guy named Stephen Lee Shepard in Vancouver who had the most incredible deadpan delivery imaginable. And having seen him and met him and worked with him and seen what he did is like, again, much like Sam getting Neil, was like, I get what you were going for there.
Right.
But there was a little asterisk on this. And so the night before filming, which I didn't know it was even the night before filming, I get a phone call from my agent saying, hey, so sorry, you were second choice for the role, but they're having a hard time getting his work visa. He's here in town, the first choice, and they don't have his work visa. He films tomorrow, and if they don't have his visa by 8 a.m., they need to run production regardless.
Oh, man.
So they're going to pay you to just sit on the set and wait until 8 o'clock a.m. And if the visa has arrived, then you go home and you get paid for a day's work. And if not, they're going to split the role in half and fix it that way. So that's what happened. I went in the very next day with minimal preparation, and this was filming in Newhall, California, which was right around the corner from where I lived. It was in the same city, really. So even then, it was just like, well, this is easy. Like, it was a 20-minute drive to work, if even. And I got in, hair and makeup and prepped, and I just sat there watching. I mean, Judd was pacing and white knuckling it because it's like he was watching money tick away, which on a pilot that's a big deal. Like they can't afford that. So you could tell he was stressed, and other people were stressed. And finally, 8 o'clock came up, and they did not have it. And it's like, all right, we're running with it.
Yeah.
And so we did it, and I got to film that, and it was super fun. I loved the scene. This was so that scene was the bully fight. So like we had stunts, we had a lot of choreography to it. Yeah, super iconic. It was super fun. I mean, my mother supposedly overheard Paul Feig saying everything happens for a reason. So he seemed happy with me in the role. So that was really nice. And it was a beautiful scene. And especially when you see it fully edited together with the music and everything, it's incredible. And so then they had to rewrite the second, what comes before it, but we filmed it second, which is the scene where initially Harris gets introduced, but now it's Colin and Harris. So they split our dialogue apart and used us side by side and had two buddies. And so well,
it worked out. I mean, Harris ended up becoming a great recurring character. But one of my only complaints about the show is I wish I could have seen more of the Colin character. I'm sure you feel that way too.
Yeah. I got to do 2 more episodes. So
I remember you were in the Oklahoma costume.
Yes. Yeah. And that was funny because they called, I think that was my second one. Cause there was that, and there was the one where it was called, the episode was We've Got Spirit, where I tried out to be the mascot.
The best.
I can't remember which one came second. I think it was the Oklahoma one. But I remember my agent called, was like, hey, they want to have you back for Freaks and Geeks for a small role for something. And I remember even then my only hesitation was I said to them, knowing how some of this works, is like, I want to make sure I'm playing the same character. I don't want to just be some guy in school. And so like that was part of the negotiation was making sure I was Colin. It's like,
at 17, I don't want you were able to advocate for yourself. It
was really important to me. So I got to, even if it didn't matter that I was Colin, like it's not like we called back to the situation or anything, but like it just, I wanted that credit. I wanted to make sure that character was consistent. So I did those 2 more, and it was super fun. Again, it was super fun. And that cast, oh my God.
Do you remember when filming We've Got Spirit, do you remember who designed the figurehead, the mascot?
Oh gosh, no.
I desperately need to talk to that person because it's so disturbing. Like every time I have it on, my wife is just like, that is the scariest looking. It's like so human like. It's really funny. Man. So you mentioned Judd pacing.
Yeah.
I recently read in Judd's book Sick in the Head, he has I think it's originally just from Vanity Fair. It's like the oral history of Freaks and Geeks, and I think that
photo shoot was amazing. I knew you were
in that too. I don't know if it was in that. I've watched plenty of like, behind the scenes and kind of interview stuff recently. And Judd was, as much as I think of him as like a very kind of almost like self-deprecating, quiet, sensitive guy.
Yeah, that sounds right.
It sounds like with some of the studio heads and people, he was really kind of aggressive and
yes.
So I'm sure it sounds like during that time you probably saw a range of Judd emotion.
Yeah. I mean, I think the pilot's probably the only time I worked most directly with him.
Oh,
he
interesting.
Was very active in that.
Yep.
He wasn't necessarily, because especially once you have an entire season of a show, it's not realistic for the executive producer to be there all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, even Paul Feig wasn't, because he wasn't directing all of them. Although I think he was there for all of mine because, of course, he was head writer, and it was like, and of course, this was sort of his story. So he was more directly hands-on with a lot of the process than Judd was when I was filming. But certainly in that pilot, Judd was, you had Jake Kasdan as director, you had Paul Feig and Judd Apatow as writers and executive producers. So certainly then they were very hands-on, and there's a lot on the line. I mean, it's a lot of money and a lot of. I mean, this is a project unlike anything else. So they had everything riding on it.
Yeah. And I was kind of learning, or actually, no, it was in the amazing Freaks and Geeks documentary. Did you watch that one? Or maybe you were even interviewed. I don't know if you were interviewed for it, but
that might have been. I mean, I think they used clips from the Vanity Fair thing for that, so I may have ended up in a little bit of that. Yes.
They also like filmed new ones. It was like it was called like Train. Was it one of the train wreck ones? It was like it was a really, really good documentary.
I have to check this out. I don't
it's
think
like an hour long. I think you can find it for free somewhere, but it was so good.
Yeah.
And they were talking about the kind of the story of this show, and basically like it was kind of a weird happy accident that the old NBC head like stepped down, and there was this weird lapse where there wasn't like a director of whatever that job is called. And that was a mess, because and that was the hardest thing, is at least the story I'd always heard, and you've probably heard versions of this already. It was that the head of programming for NBC at the time, was a private school kid, and so he literally did not understand the show. That's
so like when he got the pilot, he was ready to pass on it 100%.
Yeah.
And like he showed it to some friends. It's like, what is this crap, basically?
Yeah.
I'm not quoting, but that kind of idea. And his friends were all like, this is amazing.
Garrett something, so, like, I think.
Garth and Sears, I think.
Yeah.
I think.
Something with a G.
I know I've said the wrong names before, so I don't want to get called out on that. But I think that's who it was. And he had to get talked into it. Like his friends told him, this is a brilliant show. But the problem is, since he was never really sold on it personally, he put it in what was called the death slot, which was Saturdays at 8 p.m. or maybe it was 9 p.m. regardless. Saturday nights. The point is, no one was home watching TV on Saturday nights, especially at that time. That wasn't a concept. It's like that nothing new is on TV then. Yeah. And then they kept preempting it for various things like the World Series and other stuff. It's like it would go off the air for several weeks, and then it would come back, and maybe I think at one point it might have even moved to a different night. It was the same treatment Firefly famously got. It's like it was off and on and popped over here and over there and barely advertised. So it was never given the chance to succeed if it wanted to, which it sure did want to, and if the network had wanted it to. So that was the stress point for him, and any anger and animosity he might have toward that process is 1,000% deserved, and I feel like the whole cast has that.
No, and I when I hear these stories about him kind of pacing and angry on the phone, I see them as like actually like a wonderful thing that's happening. He's basically like fighting for the creative dream.
Yes, like, I mean I personally have a hard time getting extremely worked up about people hurting me in some way. Yeah. But if it's like my family, that's when it comes out. And this was his baby. Absolutely. So much was put into this. So it's completely fair.
Recently, like doing even, I've always been obsessed with Freaks and Geeks, but doing even more research, I'm like, oh, this project was more important to Judd than I even realized. Yeah. I wasn't sure if it was just something that like just led him to Seth Rogen and Jason Segel, but I think I recently heard him say that like Freaks and Geeks was the best thing he's ever done, and everything else he's done afterwards was a bonus for him. And that's why he allowed himself to take like wild risks with stuff like Anchorman and just like really bizarre stuff, or like, Funny People, which is marketed as a comedy, but then just has like a cancer scare.
Right.
I think the fact that he won once, it sounds like that was enough for him. That's kind of interesting.
It gave him
and
a
cool.
taste. It gave him the taste of like what was possible.
But it's ironic because he ended up winning every time. Like I can't think of like even his biggest flop in the box office was Walk Hard. And that is considered one of the best musical comedies of all time.
Yeah, no, it's still like even his flops at worst
are great.
he got cult sensations out of things. I'd say probably the next, because his next big follow up after Freaks and Geeks was Undeclared, which unfortunately also didn't succeed.
Yeah,
and that was Seth Rogen as well. That was Jay Baruchel, I think, was in that. And again, great show. I think also, ironically, both shows ended up having Ben Stiller in their finale before they got canceled. It's like,
that's because
is he the bad luck charm?
And Ben Stiller was also on like Arrested Development. It's kind of interesting, those early shows.
Yeah, and he was in like was it my first movie? I think it was my very first movie.
Which one was that?
It was called Highway to Hell. It was written by I'm blanking on his name suddenly, but the writer of LA Confidential. It was a comedy that literally took place in hell. It starred Chad Lowe and Christy Swanson. It had every single cameo you could imagine. People like Stiller and Mira, so his parents were in it, plus Ben Stiller had a cameo in it. It had people like Gilbert Gottfried and like every comedic person who was anybody, plus like Lita Ford, like all these crazy things. It ended up being a terrible movie. The producers destroyed it and it didn't air anywhere. It's streaming online, but
it might have been that you dropped it on the podcast that I heard, but I feel like
I think I did mention that.
I feel like I heard someone else recently talking about Highway to Hell.
That was still me. I'm the only person who remembers it existed.
It must have been
I'm sure Chad Lowe doesn't want to remember it.
That's really funny. And there was another movie that I wanted to watch before this conversation, but this week got busy. You mentioned a movie, I can't remember the name of it, but it was by a very like esteemed director.
Shortcuts.
Robert Shortcuts. There we go.
Yes.
You were talking about how great it is. I ever since you mentioned that, I've been meaning to check it out. So I'm very excited too.
Yeah, and Robert Altman is a director. Another example, because I think this vastly different type of director from Judd Apatow, but I think they're both in a very similar territory of they find actors that they trust deeply, and then they use them wherever they can, and they're respected enough that actors desperately want to work with them. And so Robert Altman is one of those people who he would frequently reuse people. He loved, again, I think in the same way Freaks and Geeks did, because Stephen Lee Shepard, not an actor. He didn't act before that. He didn't act after that. He might correct me if he hears this. Maybe I'm wrong, but as far as I recall, because we had a lot of conversations, great guy, not an actor. Robert Altman occasionally loved to find people like that. And so Shortcuts was his second film to feature Lyle Lovett as an actor in it. Lyle Lovett, he also cast in The Player. And what he loved about him was that he wasn't an actor. And so he was incredibly awkward. And he loved the energy that he portrayed as he handled things in a very awkward, real way. It's kind of like that accountant in What We Do in the Shadows, where they literally hired an actual accountant to be on set and didn't tell him he was going to be a main character in the movie.
That's so funny.
I think it's brilliant. And so Shortcuts is full of incredibly talented actors who Robert Altman used a lot. And he even eventually found, obviously very valid issues with one Mr. Franco, but Robert Altman latched onto him too. This was before anyone had anything to know about, but he ended up being one of his featured actors and things too. Like he had an incredible eye for talent.
I'm super uneducated on this director, but I'm excited to check it out.
I recommend it, especially because his directing style is just so vastly different, because He relies on people who will improvise.
Oh, good.
Not necessarily because obviously Judd loves improvisational actors too, and he comes from an improv background himself. But he relied on actors who he could just instantly force to not know what they're doing and just be the character without the script weighing them down.
That's so cool.
And it was exceptional. Yeah.
Do you remember a lot of improvisation happening on Freaks and Geeks?
No, I don't think so. I'm sure it did occur in places, but certainly what I worked on was fully scripted and fully performed as it was scripted. But I definitely imagine with those actors, they had to have had take, because it's a common thing you'll do even with well-scripted things is they'll go, now have the fun take. Like, we got those perfect. Now do what you want. Let's see if it works. And I with that cast, especially because, again, you had actual comedians on that cast, Seth Rogen and Sam Levine alone. And then the rest of them were just incredibly talented, smart people. So you could trust those people to go, you know what, make it yours. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. I'm curious when Judd kind of became known as like the improv director, like you know, the writer director that is so cool with improv. Especially it impresses me that he writes a lot of this stuff and is not precious about his own lines, because if someone improvises a line that's better than his, he's like, great, let's go with that. And I think that shows like what a cool guy he is in a way.
There's that, and I think it comes from being a bigger picture person. I mean, this is a guy, again, who gets comedy very well, and he gets, when you're not the actor, and like when your goal is, I want to create the thing that is going to hit the best with the audience, that they're going to love, that I'm going to be the most proud of. If you have the right approach and you don't have the wrong ego on it, you absolutely get less precious about the specifics, and you love what comes out of nowhere. And so, I love collaborating with people where my goal is never to get my idea to win. It's to get the best idea to win. Yeah. And so, like, sometimes when I'm working on projects with people, it's like I put something out there, I'm really proud of it, and they come back with something even funnier. I was like, that one. That's it.
And
we're going with that one.
Improv comedy philosophy that I learned when I did some improv classes. It's just like, it's not just yes and, it's like supporting each other and believing in each other's ideas, and
mistakes are gifts, and all of these ideas. It's like whatever happened, and you now work off of that. And it's so much better than whatever idea you thought you had when you first came onto the stage. It's like, 'cause everyone walks onto the stage with something they want to do. Some claim they don't, and maybe they're true, but like whatever the case is, like you start a sentence, you're expecting it to go somewhere, and then the thing that comes out of the next person's mouth is so completely different from whatever you might have thought was going to happen next. And how you got to be there and live there, and it's exciting.
No, that's so much fun. And it surprises me that Judd's not like an improviser himself, because it seems like that world, that mentality, he kind of lives in there.
I thought he had, but maybe I'm mixing that up with someone else in his circle. I know like Adam McKay came from improv, but
I don't think Judd did at all. I mean, he came from stand up. I recently
that's
heard
even
him,
crazier to me, because he absolutely seems like someone who should be.
I recently heard him say that I think Ben Schwartz or somebody got him to do an improv show at Largo or something, in recent years. And then he was like, yeah, that's the only improv I'll ever do. I think he was probably stressed out by it or something, but
and it absolutely can be there.
He probably was way funnier than he is saying, though.
Yeah. I know I've heard Martin Starr on various comedy podcasts, which I love him too.
Yeah, I love Martin Starr.
Like, you can tell he's not, at least with the one when I was listening, he was not super comfortable with like the heavy improv. Like they got him, they forced him to do a rap on one of them, and like he sounded as uncomfortable as I would be being told to do a rap. But yeah, like that doesn't necessarily seem like his thing. And maybe he's come way up on that too. Whatever the case is, I love him, and I love where he's gone. And
me too.
I mean, it's crazy to watch what these people have done. I mean, him having the roles he had in the Spider-Man films, written by John Francis Daley. It's like
written by John Francis Daley?
Well, yeah. So the first Spider-Man: Homecoming was written by John Francis Daley.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yes, yeah.
That's wild.
Like It's
and
insane.
James Franco is in Spider-Man.
Yes. Well, yeah, of course he was in the original one. Yep. So Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's wild.
Again, those tendrils just work their way out from this show. Like it's shocking to me which people didn't necessarily hit as hard as others because they were all so talented, but everyone's had their thing. And the other thing is, like, the cast, generally speaking, has been just some of the best people. Yeah. And that's been really nice to watch. Like, it didn't turn out to be a bunch of egotistical jerks.
Yeah.
When I did go back for that Vanity Fair photo shoot, it was amazing how many people, I think that was something like 13 years later that we did that. Whatever the case, it was a very long time. I hadn't seen any of these people in person. I got out of my car, and literally as I'm getting out of my car, I have Linda Cardellini run up to me and just throw her arms around me. We didn't even work directly with each other, but like she remembered me.
She's
I had
great,
Seth Rogen turn around on the bleachers and look back at me, and just his eyes just lit up. He's like, "Hey man, how are you?"
They all seem like really cool people. And
yes, yeah.
So I mean, there's a reason why I'm an Apatow nerd, man. He attracts really, really cool. Great. There's been a couple people that basically 2 out of the 3 stars of Get Him to the Greek turned out to be not the greatest people.
Yes,
but for the most part, it just seems like there's just great people doing great work. And
And I'll say, like, at that photo shoot too, running into him, like he remembered me by name and gave me a hug and like asked what I've been doing. At that point, I had just directed a play, and so I told him about that. And like you should have seen his eyes light up, and he literally, like, he grabbed someone else's, like, "Did you hear he's directing now?" It was just like he was so excited to hear other people doing things, and obviously, again, directing, that's his personal passion. So like that was so exciting to him. And I saw Allison Jones, speaking of her, she came up and gave me a hug, and it's like every person involved couldn't have been more proud of what they had been a part of.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
and I'm
just
sure
fostered something good.
I'm sure a number of you over the years have rewatched it just because of what a cult success it is.
Yes.
Probably out of curiosity. I know there's plenty of actors that don't like to rewatch their stuff, but I feel like Freaks and Geeks is such a short show, and it's as an actor, if I was on a show like Freaks and Geeks, I'd probably put it on all the time, or at least like a number of times, just to be like, wow, I was a part of this. It's cool.
It's a rewatch show for me, and it's not because of my involvement in it. It's despite my involvement in it, because as you said, it's like oftentimes we don't like to watch our own work, like we're our worst critics. But it's a show much like an Arrested Development or The Office or things like that, where you can just rewatch it to feel comfortable and happy and remember something pure and perfect. Yeah. And that show was pure and perfect.
It is just pure and perfect.
You have to work to find the version that has the licensed music in it. Because that's the thing is, when that show hit, it was still in the time frame where the idea of releasing shows for home release on DVD was not a thing yet.
Yep.
And so when that got its DVD home release, the contracts had not been prepared for that. This was not a concept in the industry yet. So the music licensing, which that show had tons of licensed music in it, wasn't prepared for DVD release. So they had to jump through all sorts of hoops to get all of that music licensed for the DVD.
Yeah.
And they did. But there are also versions of that show recut for streaming services that have not the original licensed music. So they have just very generic background music, and it's a different show as a result, because the music was a character in that show.
Well, I mean, if you took the Billy Joel songs out of the episode Carded and Discarded,
right,
you ruin that episode. I mean, I already did an episode on that episode of this podcast, and I had talked to a musician friend of mine who's a piano player, and he grew up on Billy Joel, and we talked for an hour about 3 Billy Joel songs that tell a story. And it's really kind of the use of music. It was almost like not a character had a theme song, but the way these 3 geeks felt about a young lady Billy Joel was the theme song to that emotion, and it's like such a creative use of music. So I can't picture a world in which they cut any songs like that.
Right.
But
and some of them they may have gotten away with, but there's definitely a lot that was used, even just as ambiance, whatever the case is. That there's certain streaming versions of it that just don't have it.
I don't think I've ever seen any of those versions because I have the whole show purchased on Apple, and I think Apple has all of the original stuff.
I do think if you have it purchased, odds are you have the correct one. I know I have it on physical DVD. I've got the original DVD box set. But I think for convenience, I watched the Netflix stream when I rewatched it with my wife for her first viewing, and I noticed that at least at that time they may have corrected it, but I think at that time
it was
not the licensed music.
Tragic. Because the music I always thought Judd was really good at, not necessarily he's always picking every song, but he's good at making sure music in his films and shows are perfect. They always are the right mood for the scene. I watched his masterclass a few years back, and he had a whole chapter about using music in a show or movie.
He takes that very seriously, and I think it's really important. I think him and James Gunn are like two of my tops for really caring about the music being a part of the film itself. It may be background, but it is key. And if you get the right music, and there's some that was like, oh, this is a little too, some people will use it, it's either too on the nose, it's like, oh, the song is literally describing what's happening in the scene, how clever. Or it's just like it's generic in some way, it's like, okay, whatever, I forget about it. But if you get the right music in the right moment, and especially using familiar but not that familiar music. It's the B-sides, it's the forgotten classics, it's those pieces where it's like, I may have never heard this before, but I instantly feel it like I should have. And it sets a mood in a way that nothing else does.
I think about Rain on Me by The Who being played, I think in the Dead Dogs and Gym Teachers. When Bill finds out that his mom is dating the gym teacher. And then the pilot,
the most famous moment is like the use of Come Sail Away. Which is it is one of the best uses of a song's structure for comedic purposes I've ever seen.
It's comedic, but it's also out as dramatic. It's like you feel so strongly for
you're feeling his everything. It's like he gets the slow song. He gets to have the slow song with her, and he's so nervous and walks across the floor with her, just walking and walking and walking as it's there. And if you don't know the song, you don't know what's coming. So it's like, okay, great. And then the moment they stop to dance, it goes into fast song, and it's like, and you feel all of his loss.
Yeah, John Francis Daley's facial expressions in that moment are such a masterclass in acting. I think
they are.
And he was like 13 too.
And I'm gonna call myself. This is another play because I when I make a mistake, I like to be very honest about it. When I worked with him on that show, I didn't get what he was going for.
Oh, interesting.
And so when I saw him performing, he was so awkward and everything. Is like. And especially not knowing how the show was going to get edited together and how it was going to work, I in the moment didn't respect the work he was doing. And when I saw the results of it, I was like, God, I'm stupid again. That was the second, it was the second time on the show that I second guessed what they were doing and didn't get it. And I was so impressed as a result of oh my God, this kid is so real.
I don't think you're stupid for thinking that. I don't, because you were working on a lot of sitcoms, and sitcoms is almost like theater acting.
Yes.
So Judd and Paul basically, this show came out the same year as The Sopranos, and I'm like, these two shows are cutting edge because they're basically shooting a sitcom like a film, like a Martin Scorsese film. Some of the shots in Freaks and Geeks, I'm like, this is beautifully shot.
It was stunningly done. It was great. And that first episode, our director of photography was Bill Pope. That was the DP of The Matrix.
Right. Yeah.
Come on, you can't get better than that.
Yeah.
So anyway, but point is, I was really blown away by his work. And then after that too, his work ever since, his work on Bones and everything, I loved him. And then as a writer, oh my God, the guy's incredible. So
that
amazing
tells me
career.
You probably didn't even realize what you were working on until you saw it. Because when you don't see how something is filmed, like cinematography is playing a bigger role in comedy and art than people think
editing.
about.
I'm at this point in my career where I just will not stop talking about good editing.
Yeah.
Freaks and Geeks editing in that show was flawless.
Brent White.
Yes.
Wasn't
it
it Brent White?
I think so. I have to look it up.
He also did Step Brothers and 40-Year-Old Virgin, and so Judd's worked with him for a long time. And his name pops
timing
up.
is so key to that, because
it's so perfect. Yeah,
you will see films and shows that have brilliant casts and good writing and bad editing. Yeah. And all the jokes fall flat because there's an extra moment after the joke that should be gone before it cuts the next thing. The reaction is mistimed, whatever the little tiny thing is, and you can be talking fractions of a second, but that makes all the difference. And that show was perfectly edited.
It's perfect. So who were you hanging out with when you filmed it?
On the set at the time? I mean, it was the geeks. We were absolutely together. I mean, I definitely, Stephen Lee Shepard, as I said, we spent a lot of time together. Mm-hmm. We were both heavy nerds. He was really big into basically the D&D world. I forget, there was a very specific thing he was into, but I'm blank. World of Darkness, I think, was the thing he was really into then.
Did they write?
I'm not a D&D person, not for lack of interest, but just I never got into it. But I learned a lot from him on that. We talked about video games. The PlayStation 2 was nearly out at that time, so we were talking about like specs and demo videos and all these things at the time, and that was it. And then I'd spent a bunch of time with Sam Levine and Martin Starr and John Francis Daly, because we were filming together. Most of our scene, we were filming together a lot, so we'd have lunch together and talk. And
that's so
I saw
cool.
Sam just last year. We went to Steve Hofstetter stand-up comedy, and Sam was in the audience, and we locked eyes and we caught up, and I love him.
I was hearing some behind the scenes about the actors who played Sam and Bill and Neil, kind of saying that the three of them were kind of saying that they never really were all in the same place. Like it was two of them would be kind of friends and the other one would be left out, and then the two other ones would be friends and then the other one would be left out.
Yes.
So did you were you on the show enough to have dynamics like that with any of the cast members?
No, especially when you're guesting, you don't really get that. I'd say I probably connected. Well, I connected the most with Natasha Melnick.
Oh, she's cool. She's really funny.
Yeah, we actually, her and my mother became friends in that time period too.
Really?
So we all went to dinner together a few times. We saw each other at other events.
Yeah.
So I think that was the only person in that cast who I hung out with outside of that production.
Well, if you
I love her. She's so sweet.
If there's a world in which you could ever help me get her on the show, I would love it so much. She's perfect as Sydney Sanders. Just amazing.
Oh my God, she was incredible in that role. Yes,
great,
absolutely iconic.
I love the episode where she and Sam are kind of paired together for the yearbook club, and Sam's dad ruins it.
Yes,
it's just incredible.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to think of what else. I have more questions. I have Hey Arnold questions and stuff, but
whatever you want.
While we're on the subject of Judd, is there is there any other this podcast is part in honor of someone I really admire, whose work I really admire, but it's also an investigation a little bit. I'm like, if I'm gonna be obsessed with this guy, I should probably figure out what's his deal. And do you have any other impressions of him? Did you have any moments that you can remember with him, or even just observing him talking to somebody?
I do think it was just that for me it was coming back and seeing him again for that Vanity Fair photo shoot, because I didn't have the full impression of him the first time I worked with him, because I literally had no idea who he was at that time.
Sure.
At that point, he was not somebody on my radar.
Yeah.
As I said, he was frustrated by the whole thing. So he was upset, again, very understandably.
Yeah.
But that kept a distance from the personal connection. So it was when I came back for the Vanity Fair shoot, a decade plus later, I was a guy who guested on 3 episodes and literally worked with him on just one of them.
You're right.
The fact that he, again, remembered me by name, greeted me by name, gave me a hug, checked in on me, like was excited for what I was doing. It didn't end up in that shoot, but like near the end of the night, there were more photos being taken. He was like, hey, throw Jarrett in there. It's like out of nowhere. It's like he wanted me in with the rest of the geeks on that. Like it was, after all those years, I felt like connected. And that was heartwarming to me. Yeah. And I feel like it was really representative to me of who he is to his people, the people he connects with, the people he wants to be around, is that it's personal. That's the big thing. It's personal. This is very personal to him. Mm-hmm. You brought that up earlier with the defense of his work. Yeah. You brought that up. And I think with the people he's involved in and the chances he takes, I think he's a person who does this because he loves it. Yeah. And it is personal. And I don't think he would do it if it wasn't personal. Mm-hmm. That's cool. That's my impression of him is this is deeply, deeply personal to him.
I love that. So do you have any favorite Apatow films over the years?
Oh gosh. This is where I check my IMDb because I suck at remembering things off the top of my head. Realistically, that's the ADHD thing. My brain does not process this stuff automatically. That's fine. Let me see here. Oh, and of course, IMDb these days starts at the less likely thing that you want to be looking at for a person. Course. Yeah. It's just like, what music did they do? It's like that was not the first thing I'm going to be looking at. You'll probably want to edit this part down as I scroll and scroll and scroll.
This is the part that people tune in for. Is the
waiting. It's the phone scrolling process. Yes. I mean, God, especially so many things he's credited as writer on, which is like, again, I respect the hell out of that.
I don't know if you said uncredited, but he's uncredited as a writer on a bunch of stuff. Like, he was apparently
he punches up a lot of things, I think, for one thing.
Apparently he did rewrites on like The Wedding Singer and like Bruce Almighty. And I'm just like, these are huge movies that his name is never going to be on, but it's like kind of a tragedy. It's like,
no, he is constantly brought in as a punch-up artist. Yeah.
It's so pretty cool.
You know what? Gosh, I really did like Knocked Up, honestly. But God, how do I not pick Freaks and Geeks?
Knocked Up is probably my favorite of the Judd movies.
Yeah, no, and that was real. And I think that was again an example of him bringing along people he had grown to love and respect. Yeah, and Seth Rogen. It's still early for him, and he was still building, but he does certain things so very well. Yeah. It's incredible to me that Seth Rogen has become the creator he has.
It's amazing, right?
Incredibly successful degree and
you probably didn't expect it back then.
No. I got along really well with him too. I actually hung out with him on set too. So like very likable person. But geez, like who would have ever seen that trajectory? Yeah. So I'm just going to say Freaks and Geeks because I still have to sit there.
Great. Yeah, no, that's the best answer you could say.
I'm going to pick his answer.
Yeah. If you haven't seen the show Love on Netflix.
Oh, I haven't.
Is that his most recent show that he produced? I think so. It's a tie between that one and Crashing on HBO, but Love is amazing. It takes place in Los Angeles, starring Paul Rust. Do you ever run into him?
Oh yeah, definitely.
You might see him at like improv stuff because I know he does some stuff at UCB.
He does a lot of improv,
yeah, and he's great. And Gillian Jacobs is the other star.
Oh, that's
a
great.
Really good cast.
She picked up her improv school skills when she did the movie.
Don't Think Twice.
Don't Think Twice. Yes. Yeah. Mike Birbiglia's improv film, which was great, especially
which is a
being
heartbreaking
an improv
movie.
yes, it is. But she did not have improv experience or formal improv experience before that, so she got training to do that. And I know the cast was really impressed with her because she made some major ad libs out of nowhere that they're like, where did that come from?
Yeah. And Keegan-Michael Key was so perfect as kind of the know-it-all, like perfect, hilarious, talented one that everyone's jealous of. And yeah, it's a great film. And
absolutely.
It makes sense that Birbiglia and Apatow are they've collaborated a little bit, but they're close friends and they're on each other's podcasts a lot. And you can see their sensibilities are so similar. Don't Think Twice feels like a movie that Apatow could have written and directed himself. So it's just kind of interesting. And I wonder if they've helped each other on their movies and stuff like that.
I assume so. I mean, the thing is, especially when you're close with someone and someone has an experience with a thing you haven't done or you're not sure about, you're reaching out. And I definitely hear plenty of stories about this. It's just like, hey, read this over for me. Am I on the right page? And they give one another notes. And it's like, it's a very collaborative community, especially among the not crappy people.
Yeah. So, wait, okay. I was going to ask about You Now, but Hey Arnold.
Yeah.
So did you voice Eugene?
I did. I was one of the voices of Eugene.
Because there was like a few actors that did that.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing with voice acting when you're a kid, and particularly when you're a boy, is you get recast regularly because our voices change. So that show went through multiple Arnolds, multiple Eugenes, multiples of most of the male characters, except for the fact that a lot of shows will cast women to play boys so that they can not have that problem. I think the only boy that show didn't recast was Gerald, because his voice was so unique that when the actor's voice changed, they wrote a story about him getting tonsillitis, getting a tonsillectomy. Right. Yep. So they did that to explain why his voice changed, so they could just keep the actor, because they were not going to get him recast. But yeah, I think I was the second Eugene. And it was really funny because I replaced Christopher Castile in that. And Christopher Castile is the actor who replaced me in Step by Step.
Oh, interesting.
So there was a little poetic symmetry there. And then I eventually got replaced by Ben Diskin, who I'd worked with on a movie called Just Like Dad. And now Ben Diskin is at the top of the voiceover acting world these days. Like, he's in everything. He did voices in, I noticed his credit in Don to Don, which is a favorite anime my kid and I like. He does a ton of the Star Wars animated series.
That's so cool.
He's gone on to be big, yeah.
Have you experimented? I want to ask you to do it right now, but I would never make you do something you're uncomfortable with.
I'm fine.
I was going to say, what does Eugene sound like as I don't know how old you are, 40 something?
Oh, 40. Yeah, I'm in my 40s. Yes. Yeah.
What does Eugene sound like now?
That's a good question. Well, gosh, I think he was always a bit Woody Allen-ish. That was the description that they gave me at the time. So I feel like he'd come down a bit. He'd be a bit raspier at this point. But I think he'd be in a similar territory to where he was. Just a bit more beat up, because obviously you fall down the hill a few times, you're going to fall down hills for the rest of your life. But he stands up for himself now sometimes.
It's really not that different.
Occasionally. No.
That's great. I was going to say something about Eugene. The Mauve Avenger. Was that your episode? Did you do that one? The race car one where he wanted a purple race car.
No, I don't think that was one of mine. Yes, no, because I get the residuals and they list the episode names. So they're it's like Coach Wittenberg, and there was the bowling episode, and I forget what else. But Eugene was not that one.
Such a heartbreaking character, because he almost like SpongeBob sometimes, where it's like he's kind of stepped on, but he has such a positive outlook on the world that it's like almost like he's the last one in on the fact that he's getting bullied.
Yes, which is a sweet naivete that you really like. Yeah.
And so you and the other gentleman played it very, very well. And one of my favorite cartoon characters. That's a very rewatchable cartoon for an adult. Like, I still will put that on and be like, this is amazing. Like,
it was a very smart show, and it's one of the reasons I always really liked Nickelodeon in general. When I was growing up, is I felt like Nickelodeon always played to the top of the intelligence of its audience.
Absolutely.
There were definitely other shows and other networks that really tried to play to the bottom. They really underestimated.
Yeah.
And it hurt. I know I did a show in my teens. I did a show called City Guys, which was a Saturday morning sitcom. It was in the same territory as Saved by the Bell. In fact, it had the same creators. And it was really frustrating because it was fun. I loved the cast. I loved doing it, but you could tell how beaten down the whole cast was by the fact that everything that got the biggest laughs during the table read or during the production process would get cut out by the end, by the time we filmed it, because there was just this assumption of that's too smart for the audience.
Yeah.
And I feel like, sure, your audience is kids, but if you don't treat them like they're smart, you're not giving them the opportunity to be smart.
Yeah,
and I
absolutely.
felt like that a Nickelodeon assumed we were smart and let us be excited that we were.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
man. Okay, I asked you about Hey Arnold. Oh yeah, I was going to ask you about the one podcast I listened to you on. You were talking about how you've always gotten to do things that are a part of other people's dream, and now what you're looking for is something that you feel like your name is on it and you're really proud of it. Do you have something in the works, or do you have an idea? Or
yeah, I mean, for one thing, actively right now, since I've been doing improv for the last 10 years on a regular basis, I absolutely have that, and I'm very happy with what I'm doing there. We have regular stage shows, and I've got my own podcast. When I say it's a team effort, so it's not exclusively me. But I'm definitely a creative driving force on it, an executive producer on it, and so I'm very proud of that. That's, by the way, called the Super Legit Podcast, and you can find that everywhere you can look for podcasts. Awesome. And we do have monthly shows in the Los Angeles area, North Hollywood. So superlegitcomedy.com to find those. So that's the biggest thing I'm actively working on. But I do have, I have in the back pocket a couple script ideas that I've started sketching out, writing some pages on, writing details on, working, looking for the right partners to work those through. And I'm definitely at a point where, again, we talk about some of these very people. I'm more excited about producing and creating something that it doesn't necessarily ever have to have me in it.
Yeah.
And so sometimes, I'll write fake ads for our podcast, because our podcast is mostly improvised, but we do have fake advertisers in it. Most of those are improvised as well, but we sometimes write them. And I've written those and cast people in them and directed them through it. And oh my God, is that fun? It's incredible to see a result of orchestrating talented people in front of your eyes, producing something that you conceptualized, and getting to have an end result where you go, oh my God, that's it. And that was all of us together doing that. So I love performing, but I'm getting more and more excited by the idea of not having to, and still having something out there that results in that. So no, I don't have anything that I can say this is definitely happening right now, but I have things that are slowly boiling, and
I love it.
I hope I have a better answer for you in the future.
Well, yeah, if you need to cast a me-looking person, I'm not an actor, so I can do a very Freaks and Geeks style awkwardness.
You'll be my Lyle Lovett.
Yeah. Well, I don't have anything more interesting to say, but I'm going to re-listen to this episode for fun, because
great.
you told some great stories, and thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, thanks for having me. This was super fun. I love reliving this stuff.
Absolutely.